He already licked it. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. It'll if you just squeeze the bottom of the thing right here, Jen, it'll turn on. All right. Hello, Mr. Callahan. 2 days in a row, Mr. Callahan.
I had council Monday night, 3 days in a row.
Wow.
Well, unless you're with me, it doesn't count. Good
Okay,
evening, Mr. Cuff.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Santa. As am I. As am I. Yeah, I did that. I've done that. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, we look adorable. There, yeah. we're all teched up. Jeff, the agenda is what you sent me the other day, right?
I sent you a revised one this week. Well, 2 days ago, this week, I'm sorry. Maybe yesterday, a
All right.
revised one, which has the LERTA discussion on there.
Are we going to show that presentation?
No, we're not.
Why?
We didn't feel comfortable because there was a confidentiality statement on there. And when I talked to Dr. Bicos, we didn't feel comfortable putting it up there because of the confidentiality statement.
If they did not present that in public,
I'm sure they did, but because if you go back and look at what you sent me, the first 2 pages.
yeah.
And I called Mark, and Mark kind of, him and Halden never got anything concrete back from him.
Well, you know how they, did what you call it,
Right.
The charter that one time.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Jan. Oh, look, you're so adorable.
Well, you guys got the old Bobby Brown
Yep.
headset.
We're
man.
all rocking out, man.
It's your prerogative. I see.
Hey, this is 2 nights in a row I had to put on pants. Here comes Warren to save you. Hey, Jeff, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We received our first CARES money, correct?
When you say first, what do you mean? Which first?
Was there one that came through the IU and one came direct, or they both, or?
Well, there's one that came through the IU. That was came through Delaware County, and there was another set of money that came through the federal government.
Okay.
Correct. So that comes on periodic installments.
Okay. And the money that came through the IU, have we gotten our full allotment?
We have, and we've submitted all our reimbursements. And correct. Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Yes, I hear them. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, Wadia, how you doing? Hey, your son's looking good with pitching.
Oh,
I was watching it.
Thanks. You should drive by and see our driveway. It's a huge tent in there so he can practice in this cold weather.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Give
great.
me 1 second. Bob or Edmund was on. Let me give him a call. Hold on.
All right. Yeah, they're so big. How old are your kids? What are you?
15 and 16.
Wow.
Yeah, time's flying.
Yeah.
He'll be a senior next year.
Wow. Super exciting. Jacob just got his first real paycheck today from CHOP. I'm going out to dinner with him.
That should be exciting that you can finally let him take
Yeah.
the ball.
Yeah, he's home till med school, but we'll
Where's dinner? Where's dinner?
nowheres.
It's a
In
great
my
feeling though when your child takes you out and they say, "Wait a minute, you can put your wallet up. I'll pay for it."
yeah.
It's a great feeling.
Yep.
I'd be so excited just to go to dinner. I wouldn't care who paid.
Yep, I agree. It's nice having him home. Super nice. While you're all here, next Tuesday when we Miss Vadia, when we do personnel executive session, I need to report out on my polling for everyone on the litigation. Okay. Edmund, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, I
muted.
wish you were.
Emma, you're muted.
All
There
right,
you go.
there you go.
All right, good to see you.
Nice seeing you too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Edmund, is Bob logging on too, or?
Yeah, he said he tried. I'll tell him to use his.
Wadia, you heard me about personnel exec?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, could you resend to Miss Boykins?
Give me 1 second.
Please, sorry.
I sent 2 of them too.
I know. Good morning. Good evening, Miss Nash. All right, everyone, it's 6:30. We'll get started at 6:34.
I just sent it.
Thank you. We are fancy people here, Jan. No, we are.
Hey, Edmund, is it B Kaufman or R Kaufman for Bob?
B. Kaufman.
All right, that's what I thought.
Are you gonna
Okay.
are you gonna talk about your weight B codes? The water around here has an incredible amount of chlorine in it. I got my office tested because we're growing lettuce. I'm putting a filter on that. It's bad. It's like we're literally bathing in pools. It's not good. I was shocked. And that's not it's a Pennsylvania thing. Yeah, not good. I was shocked. Oh,
There he is.
Okay.
all right.
Guys look like twins.
Where's my okay. All right. Well, I can wash them off too, you know. Okay. Wow. Wow. Such a gift. Hey, Miss Boykins. Hello, Mr. Kaufman.
Well,
She'll unmute herself, no worries.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, Jim, we're good.
All right, I'm gonna give it one more minute in case anyone wants to. See, no one comes to budget. We gotta fib and say we're raising taxes, then they'll all show up. That's how you, Now you all know that's true, right? I don't make that up.
You can wait till June.
You gotta
No,
post
see,
it on, you gotta put it up on all the groups in Facebook. That's what I do with education.
I
post
did put.
I post
No,
the alumni chat.
yeah, the only secret sauce is saying you raise taxes. I got you.
Oh no, don't say that.
I know, but it gets people here. It's like yelling fire drill.
It's false advertisement.
No, I'd rather live comfortably in my house. Those are not pleasant. Those are not pleasant experiences. Usually I have PTSD from March to
Oh,
June.
I bet you do.
But I bet Edmund is happier with us today than he was last year at this time,
Why is that?
because we have a fund balance,
Oh yeah.
right? So this year I'm not getting scolded about a fund balance.
It's trending the right way
That we
for
need-
sure.
Yeah, see, you haven't said that in years.
That we need to maintain.
I know. Oh,
Right,
oh.
right.
Now I got Dr. B codes right in my ear. All right, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here this evening. Tonight is a combined budget and property. I'm joined live today by Dr. B Coates and Mr. Jan Tong. So I'll pass it over to you, Mr. Cuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hoff. Thank you everyone for logging on, or anyone who watches this later on YouTube. Tonight we'll have the second, for this year, our second school year, I apologize, first in 2021, Budget and Finance and Property Committee meeting. What I would like to do is we're going to start off discussing our 2019-20 audit, which ended June 30th, 2020. And we have representatives from our auditing firm, Barbara Kane and Thornton. We have Edmund and Bob, and I'll let them take it from here. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm Edmund Fusulaye. I'm the partner from Barbara Kane Thornton and Company. I have here with me Bob Kaufman. He was the supervisor on the engagement. He was on site with a team of 2 people. This year was a little different, you know, with COVID-19. We had to do a combination of on-site work and remote work. And with the help of management, we're able to get the audit completed and for you to also meet your reporting deadlines during the year. So I have a PowerPoint prepared, you know, to give a quick overview of the results for the June 30th, 2020 audit. So I'll share my screen now.
Well,
So,
okay.
Jeff, were you saying something?
No, I'm saying good. I said we had it, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll bring it up. So,
And is the audit itself a public document yet, Jeff, or not until we vote on it?
It can be. Not until we vote on it typically is what we do.
Okay, that's fine.
is everybody able to see my screen now? Or...
Yep, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Just a minute.
Under slideshow, full screen, probably.
Yeah, okay. For some reason, I'm getting a different view here. So I'm trying to, there we go.
It's up to the left. Go all the way up to where it says auto save.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah, no, my screen here is a little different. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but you're good now? Everybody can see my,
Yeah,
Yes.
you're fine. You're fine.
okay, great. Thank you. All right. So the good news, we issued an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion on the financial statements this year. The audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States and standards propagated by the under governmental auditing standards also. If you remember the past couple of years, we had a few findings, we had a few recommendations, but I can report this year that we didn't have any significant deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting. There were no material weaknesses noted during our audit of the financial statements. I'm going to go over this later on too, but we didn't currently this year, we didn't have any new findings to the financial statements. All the recommendations that we had gone over last year, all those recommendations were cleared during the current year audit. So you have no outstanding recommendations open subsequent to the June 30th, 2020 audit. As part of the audit process too, we review your federal awards because as you know, you receive over $750,000 in federal funds. So because of that, we have to do what we call a single audit in addition to your financial statement audit. And this year we looked at your Title I funding. Every year we rotate the programs that we look at, and now we have to meet a certain threshold that's set by the federal government. And we did look at your Title I funding and tested your compliance with the federal requirements and all. We issued a modified opinion relating to that. We didn't have any findings or compliance issues noted as part of the audit process this year. Moving on. So nextly, I would like to jump into your fund balance, to compare 2020 and 2019 to give you an idea of where the district stood for both years. So if you look and see, in 2020, the general fund balance increased by over $2 million, right? To about $2.48 million. So last year, your fund balance for the general fund was $432,000, and this year was $2.478 million. So that's a substantial increase in your fund balance. It's trending the right way. You want to have a good fund balance, for future expenditures, just in case. The capital projects fund, the fund balance in that also increased by about $1.3 million to $2.5 million. And the debt service fund also increased by $1.7 million to $5.2 million. So all the fund balances for all your major funds increased in 2020 compared to 2019.
Thanks, COVID. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay. So jumping on, now I want to look at your general fund. And as you all know, the general fund is the main operating fund of the district. Pretty much anything that's not capital or debt service related runs through the general fund. So, looking at the numbers and comparing 2019 and 2020 will give you an idea of where your revenues and your expenditures stood for both years. Okay. So revenues increased by $1.9 million in 2020, comparing 2020 and 2019. And the biggest increases came, your local revenues, which is mostly your taxes. Your taxes increased by $393,000. But your biggest revenue came from your state revenues of about $1.2 million, comparing 2019 and 2020. And your other financing sources, which is your interfund transfers, also increased by $209,000. So pretty much all your major categories of revenues increased in the current year. Looking at your expenditures too, your total expenditures decreased about $1.1 million, comparing 2020 and 2019. And just to give you a little breakdown of where this happened, instruction increased by $1 million because instruction is mainly salaries, and with contracts and all those, you would expect to increase year over year with benefits and all that. You would expect those to increase year over year. But there was a decrease in your support services of about $1.9 million, right? Which counteracted the increase in your instruction expenses. And then your non-instruction services also decreased by $104,000. And debt service also decreased by $138,000. So overall, there was a decrease, with an increase in revenues, there was a decrease in expenditures. Thus, your fund balance trended a positive way in the current year. Any questions on the numbers so far before I move
No,
on?
but, and maybe I heard you wrong, but Edmund, you're not saying that the decrease in support services caused the increase in instruction budget,
No,
are you?
no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. It took a pandemic.
Yep.
Ugh, so frustrating.
Right. So now we'll jump onto your proprietary fund, which is your food service fund, just to give you a quick overview of that, where that stood at the end of the year. So for the food service fund, your net position, which is technically your fund balance, because it's a proprietary fund, it's a different lingo, it's just net position. It increased by $309,000 to $1.1 million. And just to give you a breakdown of the revenue and the expenses, revenues decreased by $623,000, and obviously we all know that, schools closed early this year. So, money was not coming in from food services, money was not coming in from the state. So revenues, food service revenues decreased by $623,000. Our expenses, likewise also decreased by $389,000 due to the pandemic this year. And this is pretty much across, all school districts that we audit in the state. All right. So there are a few other items I wanted to touch on real quick. Debt, there was a debt issue, debt that was issued this year. The district is paying the debt according to your amortization schedules that you have. Also, your pensions, if you remember a few years ago, your proportionate share of the PZ's pension was put on your books. So that is also still being recorded on your financial statements. Your OPEB liability is also being recorded on your financial statements. And there weren't as much capital additions this year compared to previous years, but there were a few additions to your capital expenditures, capital assets this year also. Moving on, as I mentioned earlier on, the good news is there were no other findings this year. So that's a testament of the work management is doing to, over the past couple of years, they've done a good job in clearing all the findings that we've had and have been able to maintain, put procedures and policies in place to ensure that no new findings are being come across. So my team this year didn't have any new findings, based on the reviews that I did. There weren't any new findings that we had to report to the board at this moment. Okay.
Congratulations, Mr. Cuff.
Thank you. We didn't have new findings last year either, but we'll get to that.
Okay. 2 years in a row, Mr. Cuff.
Exactly the same amount of time as me and what Dee have been here. That's coincidental.
Yeah. So looking at the management recommendations, last year, if you remember, we had I think 3 or 4 recommendations that were still open from previous years. And just to go over them real quick, we had kind of mentioned that the finance committee, take an improved interest or kind of like get more involved in the financial reporting process, and we've noted that that's something that is being done now. We talking with Jeff and going through the records, and we see that the finance committee is getting more involved in that, and we feel comfortable that it will improve as the years go on. So this recommendation we feel has been addressed, and it's no longer applicable since there have been procedures and policies put in place to ensure that going forward that's going to happen. Also, for the food service operations, as part of our audit process, we rely on the Service Organizations Controls Report, which, because you use a third party for your food services, we want to make sure the internal controls in place are operating effectively. We want to make sure that when funds are going between the district and the school, they're not going to be lost because they don't have good controls in place. They currently still do not have the SOC 1 report, but internally, the district has put in place policies and procedures to ensure that, whatever transactions you're having with a third party service provider, they're reviewing it effectively and making sure that all, good controls are in place, and we'll feel comfortable with that. So this recommendation is also no longer available, applicable this year. And the other recommendation we had to do with invoice processing, and more specifically with the special education department, because they were a little behind with sending invoices to the finance department and accounting to process invoices. But this year we noted that the turnaround for invoices in that department has improved, and they, Jeff and his team are making sure that they're getting invoices, in a timely manner to process and record those expenses. That recommendation is also no longer applicable this year, based on the procedures that have been put in place to process those invoices. We did not have any new recommendations this year as part of the process. So all the recommendations that I just talked about are from previous years. They've all been cleared. But as part of our process, we review internal controls. If there are any recommendations that have to be given, as you're aware, we always try to make sure that we provide good recommendations to management to improve on any areas that we think are deficient. This year, we didn't have any new recommendations as part of the process.
All right. Does the board have any questions for Edmund? Seeing none, does the public? Ms. Nash, do you have any questions for Edmund? All right. Thank you, Edmund.
Hey, Jen, can we double? Yeah. I mean, can you slide back? I just want to bring something to the board's attention.
Yes.
To the slide where we talked about proprietary funds.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So as Edmund stated earlier, I want to make sure the board's aware of why we have a fund balance or why we have a positive statement. If you remember a couple of years ago when we went out for the bid and we bought an Aramark, part of what we did was we had a guaranteed profit in that agreement with the state. So because we are CEP and because of the way they're operating, we had a guaranteed return, which is approximately $600,000 a year. So that's why you're seeing the increase there. Even though last year we had to curtail the year short, we were on track again to hit that goal of a $650,000 guarantee. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So again, this year, because the year is short, we probably won't hit that guarantee because of the obvious curtailment and kids going to school, and we're not having the same lunch,
right?
The lunch revenue that we're going to have in years past. But up until this point, this is why we had the fund balance, and this is what we've been using part of that fund balance to, as you remember, you saw this summer when we went through and we redid some of the cafeterias and we updated some of the equipment in the cafeterias. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we can't take the funds out of the proprietary fund and switch it over to general fund. We're not allowed to do that. But I just wanted to make sure that I bring this to the board's attention.
Is that why expenses decreased by almost $390,000 and revenues decreased by $623, but we still had a balance at the end?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
So we were provided a sheet from Aramark which shows we were actually trending to hit the actual big goal. And we actually did pretty good because of what we were able to do while the students were out, where actually a lot of districts were losing money in food service. In that time period, we actually were making money. We weren't making as much as we would have had it been open under normal circumstances, but we actually profited each one of those months because we were CEP and because we elevated the number of meals that we were providing during that time.
Yeah, and so Jeff, will we do double when we start coming back to hybrid, feeding the students in front of us and the students that the the pickups will still be available to those that remain virtual?
You mean, will we do double in the volume of meals we're providing? Is that
Well,
what
not double, but we'll have
Well-
two revenue sources, pickup
Well,
and
it would actually be the same because we're feeding them all under the same program is what we're doing. So
right. I'm just thinking if kids come back that we'll have the virtual meal pickup and the students in front of us.
it'll all be under the same program is what it'll be under. So
Okay,
it will increase because we will have an increased number of meals.
right.
Is what we will
That's
have.
my question. Yep.
Yes, to answer your question, yes. I just want to make sure I brought this to everyone's attention.
Great. Thank you. And so with that money, will they do projects this summer? Do we have?
Yes.
Got
So
it.
we'll sit down, we'll have the discussion and we can bring that up later at a property meeting of what, some goals, we'll get some idea because Eric has already provided me with some, but I want to make sure we bring that forward to the board.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
I want to thank Jeff for that clarification, though.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Edmund. Good to see you. Nice
Thank you.
not to be lectured about our fund balance.
No, I'm happy. It's trending the right way. So no yelling for me this year. So
All right.
all right. Thank
See
you
you-
very much. Thanks
See you
everybody.
next year. Be
Yeah,
safe
yep.
out there.
See you,
You
Bob.
too. See
Thank
you.
you.
Yep.
Okay, so we can jump back into our presentation. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we're going to jump into our budget updates for this year. This will be roughly almost the same presentation, but it'll be an update where we are as of 12/31. If you remember before, we had this same slide, and I want to show you what the increase was over the next month. Last time we did up through November, this is up through December. These are the major functions: instruction, support services, non-instructional services, and debt service. As you can see there, it increased slightly from November, and that's what we have remaining. We still have the remainder of the year, another 6 months, 6 months to go. What we have going. All right, and we'll go to the next slide, please.
Jeff,
I'm
we're
sorry,
on
yes,
track.
ma'am.
We're on track there to stay on budget, correct?
We're on track now. The only area of my concern, and that'll be the slide with the charter schools, and I'll show you that when we get there, but everything else is on point as far as I'm concerned. My only concern would be our charter school expenses have accelerated more than they have in the past years. But we'll get to that in 2 slides.
Got it.
Okay. So the good note, which Edmund had mentioned last year, we did have a positive trend on our local real estate revenue. And what I did was I picked a snapshot of December 1st, and I wanted to be consistent. So just to let everyone know, right now we're currently trending, we're about $470,000 positive of our budgeted figure for real estate taxes. December 31st, we have had some funds come in after January 1. So I just want to let you know that we're in a positive state, and we were in a positive state last year with our trend in real estate collection. And trying to predict real estate, it's a weird, because 2 years ago, if you remember, we were $500,000 in a hole. And you just don't know what happens in the economy, what are the factors, what are the underlying issues that generate it. But right now we're trending well. Good part about this is that we didn't raise taxes last year, and shockingly enough, we're where we are. Problem is our expenses rose, but that's a whole nother discussion. But right now we're in a positive state with our real estate taxes, and they're trending good right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to close out. Slide back one more time. I'm going to close out, and we will have everything turned over to the county by the end of February, and we'll go through that process of what we normally do with submitting the lien list.
Will you make sure that each school board director gets their community so they can help?
Sure. Well, and that's what we've done in the past. We generally gave them what was here. We'll do that. We'll do that again.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on this?
Just real quick, when you present that list, can you also make a list of the, let's say, 20 most egregious accounts?
Yes, that's what we did last year. Yes. So
Okay.
we'll give you so just to let you know what I did, we sent out a reminder notice at the beginning of November of everyone who was delinquent or who has had unpaid bill. And what I did was once we got in funds were trickling in, and then once we got back in January after the holiday, I ran a report and I sent out reminder notices to anyone who had a balance over $5,000. Certain boroughs they don't have a lot over 5,000. So I, like in the borough like Colwyn, I dropped it down to about 3,000. Anyone who had a bill over 3,000. What I was trying to do is I was trying to hit the heavy hitters and to see if we can get someone who maybe missed it, or, you know, we could spark some interest and spark someone to make payments. So they're trickling in slightly in January, and we'll take the money. I mean, in theory, the ends December 31st, but if someone puts money on the table, we'll put it in our bank.
Have we ever had an amnesty period?
No, we have not. No.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, no problem. Next slide, please. So in this slide, again, you saw last month I had up until the end of November. As of the end of December, again, because we have not been running transportation, we're saving approximately $1.2 million there. PCA cost is roughly $700,000 in savings.
I'm sorry, Jeff, you're still on the same slide.
No, he's not.
Am I?
I'm
No.
on local real estate tax.
No, he's
No.
on a different slide.
Just open your screen and shut your screen.
You're good.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Good. So what you see, you'll see increases. So, and you saw a jump in the increase for PCAs, because again, what I did was I based this off of last year's general ledger. So as things got coded last year at a certain date, that's why you may see an increase, a larger increase in one area versus another area, is what you may notice. But right now, compared to last year at this time, this is where we stand as far as savings in those three areas.
That's just till now versus the end of the year. The
Correct.
original. Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions? We can go to the next slide, please. So you asked me what would be my concern. So the biggest concern I have is our charter school expenses, and you'll see that we do trend up every year, and that happens. There's a shift of population that shifts every year. But what you'll see here, and what I'll bring to note, the biggest difference in this slide versus the November slide, you'll see the total as of December 31st, we spent almost $7.2 million in charter school tuitions. And last year, this time, we had $5.2 million that we spent.
Whoa.
So, and again, this is based off of general ledger activity. I went to last year, totaled it up. This is where we were at 12/31. And this is what we look like right now. So if you ask me a question, that would be my biggest area of concern.
So I do have a question. So last year, with regard to the 2019-2020, we were at we spent 11 million, right, in the charter.
In charter school, correct? Yes.
Okay. So right now, currently, we're at least at 7 million. So we're going to search. So what you're saying is that we haven't even ended the year. We're going to surpass that 11 million.
I would definitely believe so. And if you look, so the driver of charter school expenses, if you look in the second column where enrollment figures are, that's one of the drivers. The more kids you have enrolled in charter schools, that's going to drive up the multiplication times the tuition rate. So you'll see we have a large jump from 2019-20 of 801 enrolled to 922 enrolled.
Right. And Ms. Boykins, if they look at the bottom, last year at this time, we were at 5.2 million.
Yeah.
So we're 2 million up. So if you do we could be up to $4 million up by the end of the year.
Well, this goes back to, I don't know where we're at with it, but it was going, just to speak of this, we talked about, reaching out to the kids that have enrolled in charters. I would like to know, once again, for the 121 that have jumped to a charter school. Now we're in the middle of a pandemic, so what has urged them to jump to a charter school? And what is it that charter schools offered during this pandemic that William Penn School District was not able to offer? Because I think that we should look at that, because this number is going to keep growing. And I just feel like we talked about this last year, and
Yep.
I don't know what movement Jane had on this, but we just really need to start trying to reel our kids back in.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
Dr.
Ms. Boyd,
Bicos
right.
and
If,
Mr.
if I can
Demenza.
add one answer in that, sometimes it may not be that they actually left. It may be that what happens is, I think the charter schools are doing a good job of hitting certain neighborhoods and hitting certain areas and doing a good recruiting. So it may not be that they left this district. It may be that they never came to the district. So they may be getting them as they come in from kindergarten and bring them in that way.
We did.
I'm sorry. So that means they live in the district, but they never came to us. They went straight to charter.
Right. I'm not saying that's what, but that may be a factor in that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Actually,
so because keep in mind what's happened with the charter schools every year that they were in existence, and I'll just use Visions because they're the local one, and I'm not pinpointing them. I'm just pointing it out. Every year that in existence, they grew a grade every year. So those students may have matriculated through their system, and they may keep going up, because when they first started, they were up to 5th or 6th grade. So now they're probably up to 8th grade, I think is where it stops.
Correct.
But they may be matriculating through their system and never step foot into William Penn. I'm not saying that's the case, but that may be another scenario there.
Yep, got you.
It's definitely probably worth its own meeting. I know Dr. Bicos and Mr. Demenza are working on it. We did lose some folks when we shuttered our elementary cyber program. And some of it is they could get started faster with them, but they do a really good job. And I did supply Dr. Bicos with a postcard that came to my house, encouraging people to join. They do a really good job targeting neighborhoods. So if there's 3 kids in a neighborhood that go to the school, they'll, circle that by 4 blocks and, do a hard press. But we absolutely need to work on it.
Also, Dr. Bicos, in your knowledge of knowing and dealing with charter schools, I just had a question, because I asked this last year, and it was like pushback on it. And is it illegal to talk to charter schools and negotiate with them in any type of way about, with regard to building relationships? Or I know that charter schools don't have caps. They can take a different, as many kids as they would like, it seems as though. But when you talk about taking as many William Penn school districts, I had suggested this last year. Is it a way to, talk to them and build a relationship? Like for the ones that we know that have a lot of the William Penn school district kids, is it, can you build relationships in that type of way with charter schools?
I think you can build relationships, but I think the reality is that the financial incentive, I don't think is going to, the relationship is not going to outweigh the financial incentive, meaning on their side. But I think there is some relationship building that we can do, but that would not change the fact that if the child is lives in our district and attends the charter, we still have to pay them, because that's just what the law indicates.
Okay.
But I think there are definitely some things and strategies that we can do in terms of our district and how we help people to understand the similarities between the two, I'll say, entities. Okay. And I think we could do more in terms of talking about what we provide and what we can offer for students and families.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I will also say that PSBA is working on legislators regarding cyber charter funding. They believe it's low-hanging fruit and that it will get dealt with sooner than later, because that would help us a lot.
Do we know?
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
Yeah,
that's
go ahead.
okay. So do we know if charter schools are open, like brick and mortar? Are they taking in students live? Are they in building or are they virtual as well?
Mixed bag,
Yeah.
Yeah.
mixed
I,
bag.
I think it's mixed. I know from and I'll use transportation as my basis. Um, and I'll go back to and I'll reference the other slide where transportation costs for us, have dropped. So I think a lot of the charter schools, which we provide transportation, we're not transporting as many as we have in the past. So it's either that they're virtual or they have a cohort set up or a hybrid setup that maybe that they're not in there full time. And again, that's not ironclad. I'm just using that transportation as a basis of students getting to school.
Yeah, that would be good to know as we go back to hybrid, if some of them are not going back to hybrid and remaining virtual, that might give us a little advantage. Just as a thought.
I'm just wondering if some of the charter school students are going back because they are offering in person and we are just starting. I'm I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I believe they started, well, I do know Visions had they had their virtual, but they had offered hybrid a little bit earlier than we did. I do know that with regard to Visions, but a few of my neighbors, I've seen their kids going. But I don't know with regard to everybody, but I know that for Visions, they had the opportunity to first they were virtual and then they had hybrid a little bit quicker than we did.
Yep. Yep.
The one question that I had was, can we say that this increase too is somewhat of a direct reflection due to COVID? I just want to know with regard to the charter school business structure, like how it's set up. Did they have the opportunity to get more grant funding or loan funding? I
They
don't
got,
know.
yeah, they got CARES just like us. But
Uh-huh.
statewide, I think if you read Larry Feinberg's morning email, I think they're up $650 million this year. So, and
Okay.
they are attributing, and again, that increase in charter is expenses this year is not a William Penn problem. That is a COVID problem.
Yeah.
It's district wide. Even the districts of wealth are experiencing things that they've never seen before.
I was thinking because of their model, they're more set up like a business, they probably had more access to certain things where as far as funding, and they could probably charge more or whatever, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they can't charge more, but when like they just like start setting up kids, like just boom, 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 boom. So any delay, Lower Marion's had the problem, Radnor's had the problem, Havertown has 60, so we have 120. They had 60 that they lost. So that's why I think that the cyber charter funding will be dealt with sooner than later because it affected more districts than ever before.
Thanks.
I'll send you that article too.
Okay, thank you.
Those are good questions. Thank you.
So Jeff, before we move forward, do we have a percentage of how many are brick and mortar and how many are cyber? I don't need the tuition. I just like percentage of students that.
I can email that to you. Yes, we do have that. We just didn't have it updated into this. Okay. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. So as we're talking about budget, we're going to start focusing on the preparation and getting prepared for next budget. And next slide, please. And the two big things, one thing I want to do, we still need to get a couple members for our budget advisory committee, that we can fill a couple slots there. And our next meeting is going to be the 11th of February. What I would like to do going forward is to pick the same time period that we're at the second week of the month on a Thursday, if we can keep consistent all the way through the process. That way everyone knows that, okay, this is what we're looking for. If everyone's okay with that, I'll update this and I'll send it out to the board members and we'll go from there.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the last item that I want to talk about is a LERTA. LERTA is the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance Program. I'm not going to read through all this. I think most people can read this. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we do have a proposal from a developer in Darby that wants to take a parcel in Darby and I guess basically not tear down the building, but remodel the building, and they want to make a living facility for, I think it's 92 or 103 apartments. And this is at the Quarry Street resident, 901 Quarry Street, I believe is the address. We have been in conversation with them. They proposed to the district to have a LERTA set up where what a LERTA does, and I'll just put it in layman's terms, it decreases their tax liabilities for the first couple of years. But as the assessed value of the property increase, we will gain that money back in later years. So hypothetically in years 1 or 2, we won't receive the same tax revenue that we normally receive, but by the years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we're back above and beyond where we would have been if we never had this property going through a revitalization. So right now, what we're doing is the board gave approval for the administration or solicitor to negotiate with Darby regarding with Darby Borough and the developer to have the LERTA in place. Right now, what we're waiting on is for Darby to issue their ordinances, and then we can have a proposed resolution to present to the board on January 25th. I hope I didn't go through that too quickly. Does anyone have any questions on that?
This is the proposal that we spoke with Mr. Cohen about previously?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm good with it.
Okay. All right. So and hopefully, and in the long run, I think this will be a win-win for everyone. It'll be a win for Darby because it takes a property that was depleted and was well need of a makeover, and it'll provide quality housing for the residents of Darby. And what it'll do is it'll bring revenue into them for earned income. It'll also bring residents in. But what it'll do for us is it'll bring revenue for us because this is a property. Once the value of the property increases, we will receive increased revenue as well down the road. So it's a win-win for everyone if everything goes as planned.
I don't think this question was ever answered. Was it the old property? Was it behind in taxes?
I'm going to research that. I do not recall because the county, normally I would be able to answer that question because the county's website changed and it does not report that the way it used to report it.
Okay.
So I'm going to research that for you.
Can what's her name? Miss Thurgood, can she find out? Does she know? Would she know?
But yes, she may or may not, but irregardless, Joy, it has to be caught up on taxes before it clears sale.
Right, which is why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'll see what I go. I'll look into last year, see if it was paid. I can look that up and I'll report that to you in the board update tomorrow.
Also, Jeff, one huge benefit to Darby is they get all the EIT on the residents of those facilities. Yep. Ms. Boykins, I sent you that article and I was incorrect. 475 million, not 600 million.
Okay, I was just responding actually to say thank you.
Okay. So that's all we have for this evening. As things progress in the budget season, we'll have more to report back and more to discuss going forward.
I just had one question. The slide that you had up there was showing the substitutes. It was like 265,000.
Yes.
Is that what we saved? Like, is that? I'm sorry, I might have misread that slide. Is that what we saved
this year so far?
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. That's great. That's great. That's a good thing. Because I think we were talking about that last year, how substitutes, but I mean, COVID saved us on that.
Yeah, it's an unfair comparison.
It's
You know,
to be quite honestly, it's. I mean, and again, and I'll say this from a financial perspective, COVID has been bittersweet. You know, it's not where we wanted to be in any way, shape, or form. It's a horrible situation that none of us plan to be in. Unfortunately, I mean, there are effects of it. Financially for us, it helped. It helped a lot of other districts too, but I think that wasn't the goal that anyone had in mind, or, you know, it's just a product of a bad situation.
Yeah. And truthfully, we don't know the 2-3 year. A lot of people are very, very concerned about what this looks like in 2 and 3 years. The state has no budget, right? Like the revenues will be behind. Now we don't have evidence of what, you know, right now we're good, but 2-3 years, nobody really knows what that looks like.
Right. I mean, because and again, not to go to 12 different points, but one thing you have to understand, a lot of our state revenue that we receive is generated off of gambling money or tots for slots, whatever they want to call it. But again, keep in mind, just as certain places are suffering revenue wise, I think the gambling and all those revenue streams have been dried up with COVID. So there's going to be an effect of that, as Jennifer said, which may not be this year, which may be a couple years down the road.
Well,
we may actually see the effect of it.
And that almost hurt us this year because that fund was $300 million under, and they used CARES money to fill that Slots for Tots fund. So next year, right, the casinos open up tomorrow or this weekend. Next year, what does that look like?
Right.
And because they won't let them use CARES money to fill that hole again. So that could come back to our citizens if they would eliminate that program. The citizens wouldn't save $432 on their property, et cetera.
Okay.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we know the effect of reassessment on millage or collections or any of that?
We don't know the effect of collections right now because we haven't gone through that process. I did do a calculation of what I think the millage would be. I'm going to, I'd rather hold off. I'm going to verify it one more time.
Right.
It did decrease our millage from 47 through my calculation. But I just want to verify that one more time because there's been a lot of discussions amongst a lot of school districts over the whole reassessment process. So I want to verify that, and then I will share that at the next budget meeting.
Thank you.
Also, I just wanted to say thank you, Jeff, for all your hard work with this, because I know managing the budget, especially the last 2 or 3 years, you know, every time they come, it's like an issue. So it's really good that all of the findings that they had, that you put corrective actions in place with help of admin as well. But I know that it was a lot on you, you know, especially just trying to manage even the situation coming back from the whole Rose Lion situation. That was a big thing, but being able to manage all that and get us to, you know, where we have no findings in our audit. I just commend you and your team on that because it's not easy.
Thank you. We had no findings last year too. You know.
Well, sorry, the year before last.
It was small, but we're good. I appreciate it. It's a team effort. It's a team effort.
Is that the same audit group or it's a different one?
So it's the same auditing firm. Edmund has been doing, but what they bring in different auditors every year. I mean, the audit firm typically audit by the way the CPA firms go. They have a lot of rollover. So they typically get, you know, a lot of people out of college and they roll them in and then they go out and get other jobs. But Edmund has been there for a while. He worked up as a lead auditor to supervisor. Now Edmund is a partner in the firm. And Bob has been a supervisor for the last 3 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions, anyone?
Great. If not, we'll see everyone for this umbrella on February the 11th.
Great. And see you
Thank you,
all
everyone.
Tuesday. Happy MLK Day. Happy almost inauguration. Be well, peeps.
Oh,
Take care.
Lord.
Oh, Lord.
Everybody.